Hi and welcome back to the vlog. If you haven't been here before, my name's Suze Nethercutt. I am an artist and also about to be a master's student. I am starting my Master of Visual Art by Research in a couple of months' time. So this vlog is going to be all about all the things that I've been doing to prepare to become a postgrad student again. So let's dig in and have a look at all the different things. Before I jump in, it would be great if you could just give this video a little like, and if you're liking what you're seeing today, even maybe consider subscribing. Okay, now let's dive in. You'll see behind me over here that this shelf area and second desk that I have is completely disemboweled at the moment. So I spent a lot of time yesterday just going through all the books that were on that shelf that are all pretty old and frankly quite irrelevant to what I'm about to do. So I just thought it was time to do a really big cleanup and a move around of a lot of books. I actually have a ton of art books that I have been collecting for the past 30 years of my life, possibly even a little bit more. I am 49 years old, and so that gives you an idea of how long I've been collecting art books for, a really long time. And I have recently been collecting quite a few that are around the subject area that I'm going to be looking at. So I wanted to do a huge reorganization of my library and really go through and put what I need that's relevant here. And also you'll see over here there's huge stacks of books. I'll just swivel that around so you can have a look. I've got huge stacks of books that I have popped up on that table sort of in themed groups in preparation for reading. I have read most of them at some point in time, but I really do need to go through a lot of them again and really specifically mine out information that is going to be part of my research. So that has been one big element that I have been doing to prepare just over the last couple of days. And I still have heaps of organisation to do here and also heaps of organisation to do in my bedroom, which I'll take you to in a little while to show you the enormous job that's going on there as well. The other thing that I've been doing to prepare to go back to postgrad study is I've been cleaning up and refining and downsizing a lot of aspects of my art business. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit with you guys today, because I know that if you've been on this journey with me for a while, particularly through the years of the podcast when I was publishing that weekly, we talked a lot about art business and all the different things you can do to make an art business a reliable source of income. So over the years, I have figured out what works for me and what doesn't work for me, and I've tried about a million things, and I've had what became quite a large business. I've made decisions to contract that down to a small business that's really refined, that's got some really great passive streams of income that are hopefully going to continue to support me as I undertake my master's over the next 3 years, because I'm doing it part-time. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that, because so many of you have been on the journey with me with my art business, and I've talked about it a lot on my podcast that I've had for many years about all the different things that you can do in your business. So I wanted to talk about the things I'm doing to tidy up and refine and reduce expenses and hopefully create a nice steady stream of income. So the first thing that I have done is I have moved my e-courses. So I have had a teachable school for about the last 4 years, and I've got several e-courses that I have been teaching there for that time, and it's been a really great lucrative source of income for me. But moving forward and knowing that I'm probably not going to be making a lot more e-courses because my attentions will be elsewhere, I wanted to look for a more cost-effective option to house those classes in a way that was costing me less money, because Teachable is quite an expensive platform, particularly for me living in Australia, when it's charged the subscription is charged in American dollars, and it really adds up to a huge chunk of money. So I did some research late last year, and I found out that Squarespace had introduced courses as an option now that you can subscribe to on that platform. I have had 2 Squarespace websites for quite some time now, so I thought, well, this is a great opportunity for me to move because the pricing of hosting courses on Squarespace is considerably less than Teachable. So I actually bought myself a year's worth of subscription, I think, when they had a 20% off sale a little while ago, and I spent over 2 months transitioning thousands of students over from Teachable to Squarespace. So there were so many steps to this process, and I started it during my last exhibition when that was taking place at the Art Gallery of Ballarat. After that was hung and that was happening, my first job straight after getting that enormous body of work finished and hung was to get onto this process of moving, which I can tell you was not fun at all. I had to move all of the courses physically onto that platform, upload all the video. I had to go in and import every single person from Teachable into my email provider, which is Flowdesk, so that I could set up lists for everybody and make sure I'd moved everybody correctly. And there wasn't a bulk way I could do that easily at all. So I had to do it individually for each person, which took a long time and was possibly one of the most boring jobs that I've ever done in my life. But once it was done and I transitioned everyone over, it has been such a lovely process. And also the other thing that I did at the same time is I have had 2 websites for probably the last 5 years. I had my art website, susannethercutt.com, and I had my education website, which was susannethercuttstudio.com. And one of the decisions that I made to downsize and consolidate and just be really smart about where I was investing my money was actually to close the website for education and move everything onto my susannethercutt.com website. So I also did a massive website redesign at the same time. I had to get in a developer just to help me with the process of moving a whole bunch of files and pages, things like podcast episodes and YouTube videos and a whole bunch of data. I got them to move it over to my other website. Again, it was an enormous job that took a long time. So that was part of that 2-month period as well, was actually moving all the contents of that website over. So the other thing I had to do was move from the old Squarespace operating system to the updated one so that courses could work on there. So there was a whole redesign element as well to deal with those changes. So long story short, although it's not short because this is what I do every time, is I tell the long story and then sum it up telling you I'm going to tell it short, and I never do. I have completely compressed 2 websites plus a 3rd e-course platform into one website. And I am so pleased with the result. I'm so happy that I've done this. It feels like this incredible simplification of my life and everything that has been my art business. I've picked the things that are working best for me as an income stream, and they're all present there in that one place. So I've got e-courses, I've got my original art, I've got prints, I've got all the podcast episodes, all the YouTube videos, all the freebies for artists. Everything is contained in one area, and I feel really well organised and ready for the next chapter. And in the process, I've saved myself a huge amount of money, which I really needed to do once I'd made that decision that I didn't want to have this huge full-on online business where I was pursuing all of the things. I haven't really let go of that many things. There have been a few that I've let go of, but it has just made such a difference, not only to my economic bottom line and making sure that I don't have as high a monthly expenses as I did before, but also just to my mental space. Like, it just feels so much better to have so much less going on in my digital world. So it's been a really good process of just getting into all of the monthly subscriptions that I've gradually got myself signed up to over the last few years, and really answering that question very honestly, do I need this, about all of them, and just getting ruthless and getting rid of things. One of the other things that I let go of was I had a full Adobe subscription, so I had access to Illustrator and InDesign and all these apps that I have used in the past, but I haven't used for some time because I use Canva for a lot of that stuff now. So I downsized that as well to just a subscription for photography, which is with Photoshop and Lightroom, which I use all the time. So that was a really smart choice as well. Another change that's happened over the past month is I have started teaching live again. I've started doing in-person workshops with a lovely crew called Arty. They're a company that just do artist workshops and retreats. And they had been asking me for a few years if I would like to go and teach for them. And it just wasn't quite right each time they reached out. I was like, oh, look, I'd love to do this, but I just don't have the space in my schedule for that right now. Please come back to me though. And they came back to me late last year, and I thought, I think this could actually be the perfect accompaniment to returning to study. So I had to go through a process of kind of reacquainting myself with in-person teaching. And specifically what I have been teaching for them is my really bright floral abstract style of painting, which is probably what I'm best known for on social media. Quite different to the work I've been making lately, but still enormously fun, and also something that other people really love to learn about. So I actually had to go through a process in my studio of reacquainting myself with how I taught that, because it had been a few years. I actually hadn't had a workshop or taught any retreats for about 5 years, maybe a little bit less. So I spent some time in the studio just really getting clear on how I want to teach, what has changed in the way that I want to teach since I taught it last time, because I also feel like I've learnt so much about my own practice over the past 5 years that I really wanted to just revisit the way that I teach. And you can only really do that if you're actually painting. So I just spent a couple of days in the studio reacquainting myself with my method and my colours when I paint in that style, and just really with that lens on of how am I going to communicate this with my students, because I can see this being a really lovely way for me to be able to continue to do my studies and also be bringing in income. I had my first workshop in Melbourne about 10 days ago, and it was just beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. I actually loved it more than when I used to teach them myself in the studio. When I used to do that, I found that I was just super exhausted because I was hosting them here. It's in my home, so I kind of had to clean the whole house in the studio and have everything set up to have other people come in and learn in this environment. And I also had to do all the sales and all of the things, and I kind of decided after a while that it was a bit too much and it wasn't really for me, so I stopped doing it. But I was so pleasantly surprised to discover that teaching is something that I really enjoy if I don't have to do all those organisational aspects, because Arty will make it so that you really are just turning up and teaching, and you've got the support you need of all the people that run those workshops and retreats, putting together all of the groundwork for you. So that was an absolutely beautiful experience. And I have another workshop that I'm teaching, a 2-day workshop in the Gold Coast in Queensland here in Australia, which is coming up soon. And I think I could see this becoming something that I would really like to do pretty regularly as I go through my studies. Another thing that I've been doing to prepare myself to go back to do postgraduate work is I've been physically transforming my spaces, which I spoke a little bit about earlier, but I wanted to go into it in a bit more detail because I feel like one of the things that I'm most excited about in undertaking my postgraduate degree is that I'm going to be able to devote much more time to reading and research. And I absolutely love reading and research. I live in a really cold place. It's actually quite sunny here right now as I'm talking, but we've just entered the latter part of autumn and it's getting really cold, and it is such a wonderful place to cozy up with a book. And so I really wanted to cultivate the spaces that I'm going to be reading in as I prepare for my postgrad. So I have been doing a lot of transformation work in my studio. As I mentioned before, I have this whole area that I am working on at the moment, so that I can just have the most relevant things at hand for when I'm working. So I'll have a chair that I will be having over here near this table full of books. And that will be one of the reading areas. And as you can see, there's really beautiful light comes in from this window. I'll just swivel you around so you can see the situation. I have my beautiful bay window here, which, as much as I would like to say that I sit in my bay window and read books, it's actually not the most comfortable place to do that. So I tend to sit in a chair that's by my table over here, which isn't there at the moment, when I read in this room. And also just to have all of my books, they're actually been stacked according to themes. I've been spending some time actually refining my research categories. So part of the process of applying to do a master's by research in visual art is to come up with a research proposal. So I had to come into it with quite a lot of understanding of what I wanted to do and an outline of what my approach is going to be in my master's. So I have proposed a particular subject that is around female painters of flowers and the history of female painters of flowers, particularly from 18th, 19th century England coming into Australia, and then through modernism. So that amazing period between around the 1890s up until around 1940s, when you have the modernist painters coming through and how that changed things. So that, in a very loose sense, is what my current research topic is about. So I've been spending some time actually defining my categories of research, so that as I've been doing reading, which I have been doing really for the last 18 months, because I started really researching these topics for the exhibition that I had very recently at the Art Gallery of Ballarat that kind of lit this whole fire in me. So I have been researching in a fairly formal way for about 18 months now. And I really wanted to come up with a clear picture of the research categories that I am going to be undertaking, such as 18th century female botanical painters, 19th century female botanical painters, modernist botanical painters, the general history in each of those areas, and a whole bunch of other details that are in my research category plan that I've started making. So that can be a real guide for me, so I can be very focused on how I take notes and start to write ongoing and start to piece together what will become the thesis of my argument. So each of these book stacks over here actually represents a different kind of research category, I guess. And so I'm physically putting in place what has hence just been an idea in my head into book stacks that I have in my collection, which feels like a really satisfying thing to do, especially as someone I've loved books my whole life. I've always read very widely, but also in a granular way on particular subjects. I have purchased a lot of books over the years. I've invested a lot of money, so it's really lovely to be seeing how I'm going to be using those. And also lovely to have copies of books that are my own. Moving forward, there will be more library books because I will have access to the university libraries and lots of research articles, etc., that will be coming my way, that will all be digital format. But yeah, the actual physical setting up of the space is really exciting for me. The other thing I've been doing with transforming physical space is allocating a particular desk for research. This workspace behind me here is a second desk that I used to use a lot when I had a second person in the studio, a studio assistant coming in and helping me with things with my art business. I haven't been doing that for the last little while, so that desk has sort of just remained spare, and I've known that that was sort of going to become my reading and research area, because my other desk, which is over here, is the area that I use sort of for everyday admin and scanning and printing and all of those sorts of things. So I'm setting up that space as where I can do a lot of that research work. And I've also been transforming my bedroom. I have the most wonderful bedroom, which a couple of years ago I'd been saving literally for like over a decade to build a beautiful wardrobe / library in my bedroom. And I'd had this vision for the longest time, and I literally just squirreled away money for years and years and years to save up for it, because it was not a cheap piece of cabinetry to have built in my house, my house is really old, and so I had to put something really beautiful in there. So I have been refining and reorganizing my beautiful library in there. That library is pretty much mostly dedicated to art books. And I have moved a lot out into here, into the studio that I know specifically I'm going to use, but I have a whole other library in there that I really wanted to have reorganized. And I also treated myself. I have this area by my fireplace in my bedroom with a beautiful chair, which is a lovely place to sit and read. And I really wanted to get a little table in there so that I can have somewhere to sit my books and my research materials when I'm working. So I had a bit of birthday money that I had been given, and I went to a little local antique store and sourced myself the perfect little table that I think just perfectly matches my fireplace in there, so that I can have a little reading nook there as well. I spend a lot of my life reading in my bedroom. I either am in bed or I'm by the fireplace. We have a little tradition in our family where the kids and my husband all come in. We all go into the bedroom in the evening before bedtime and read in there together. It's a really special place that I love. So it's been a real delight to be refining that area. Something else that I have invested in recently, and I very much did so not just for recreational reading, but knowing that I was going back to postgraduate study, is I bought a Kindle Scribe. This is not sponsored, by the way. This is something I did a bit of research on for a while. I, as you see, have a lot of books, and I really got into using a Kindle recently. We had been given one by a family member who had upgraded, and I wanted to try it and see if that might be a good option for me to read novels, because they're not necessarily books that I need to own a novel. And I wasn't really sure if I would like the experience of using an e-reader, because I do love the physicality of books. But then I also did a bit of research on ways that I could read PDFs and make notes on them digitally. And I realized that a Kindle Scribe was actually probably a really good fit for me. So I got one because a Kindle Scribe is not only an e-reader, it's actually a digital notebook as well. So it kind of, it feels like paper. And when you write on it, it's kind of like the Remarkable. There's a few different products out there that are just for digital note-taking. But you can also read and annotate books as you're reading them in the Kindle Scribe. The other really great feature as well is that you can write notes, handwrite them with the little pen on the notepad, and then you can send it to yourself and it will actually turn your handwriting. It'll email it back to you as text, which I absolutely love and am using quite a lot, because I quite like to handwrite my ideas down. You can also, as you're reading a book in Kindle Scribe, you can go to the app on your computer and it will show you all of the highlights and notes that you've made down the side. So it's a really great way to annotate and take notes on a book as you're reading it for research, because all of your notes are actually contained in there in the app, which is very helpful, and all your highlights. And it's kind of made accessible in a way that's very, I think, going to be very useful. So I've been buying some of the heavier, more dense theoretical books that I want to do in advance of actually commencing my master's. I wasn't even able to buy physical copies of them because many of them were out of print or they were prohibitively expensive, but they were available in a Kindle version. So I have been sort of testing it out on those books, and I have to say, I freaking love this. It is one of the best digital tools I've ever used. I actually have tried a lot of different electronic tools over the years, and I find that I don't always use them as much as I think I will, and I have a real problem with a lot of digital systems that don't quite make my life easier, but this one really does. I am using it more and more all the time. I use it multiple times a day. I'm writing a lot of notes in there because I absolutely love that I can then email it to myself and it comes through as text and I can just copy and paste that into a Word document. The other thing you can do is upload your own PDFs to it. So I can photograph research material and just make it into a PDF on my computer and send it to my Kindle, and I've got it there, and I can actually annotate that with the little pen here, which is it's really nice to use. So that's another way that I have been preparing. And I think that might be everything that I can think of that I've been doing in the last little while to get ready for my master's. So I hope that wherever you are, you're having a great day. If you've seen this through to the end, I really hope that you like and subscribe to my channel. It makes a really big difference to other people finding it if you hit the like button. I will see you soon. Until then, take exquisite care of yourselves. And I'll catch you next time. Bye. I absolutely love creating these soul-nourishing videos and podcasts for you. If you'd like to support my craft, consider purchasing a piece of my art, a print, or taking an e-course. All the links are in the description. Have an exquisitely beautiful day, friends.